This episode discusses public court records and official police documents for informational purposes. Any commentary, opinions, or theories expressed are our own. All individuals are presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law.
Every community has those moments that divide time into two parts. There's life before the tragedy and life after. And for the small town of Edgerton, Missouri, February 19th, 2016 became one of those days. Edgerton is the kind of place many people picture when they think of small town, rural Missouri. Do you know anything about Edgerton, Mindy?
I don't.
Yeah, I know it's a little town in the Kansas City area that's one of those little towns that
How small is it?
I think it's like unincorporated, very small.
Oh, okay.
They don't have their own school, that kind of thing.
Got it.
So very tiny, but very that community where neighbors know each other. Families have roots. A lot of people have lived there, for generations, and where people feel, safe because you know everybody you're living around.
Yeah.
Again, Edgerton has typically held a population of less than 600 people. It's kind of like there's Edgerton. I don't know, people that live in the Kansas City area. There's also a little town called Turney.
Yes.
There are those little, And it's located close kind of to Platte City, St. Joseph, and Kansas City, Missouri. So a little small rural town outside three kind of bigger areas. Now, on a cold night, February 2016, a home on a quiet street in this small rural town becomes the scene of one of the most horrific crimes that this community has ever witnessed. Inside this home lives 3 generations of one family, an elderly couple who spent decades building their life together, their adult granddaughter who was raising a young child, and a 3-month-old baby whose life had barely begun. By the time emergency responders arrive, the family home is engulfed in flames. And what investigators discover would lead to a case involving a shocking family betrayal, a nationwide manhunt, and questions about mental health, and a trial that doesn't even happen until 6 years later. This is the story of Russell and Shirley Denham, Heather Ager, baby Mason Schiavone, and the devastating events that forever changed Edgerton, Missouri. Welcome to Missouri Mayhem, Mystery and Murder. I'm Megan.
And I'm Mindy. We want to give a giant shout out, thank you to all of our supporters and listeners.
Yes, thank you so much to everybody out there. And we do want to let our listeners really quickly, before we get into the heart of this case, know about a fun event.
Yes, we're very excited about this.
We just found out that Missouri Mayhem has been chosen as an artist vendor at the upcoming
Boozy Book Fair.
And this Boozy Book Fair, is put on by the Gilded Page. And the Gilded Page is a wonderfully fun bookstore in Kansas City. They hold lots of cool events. They've been doing the Boozy Book Fair for several years now, and it just keeps getting bigger. And this Boozy Book Fair is going to be held on Saturday, October 3rd, 2026 at Bartle Hall Convention Center in Kansas City from 4 to 9 p.m. And we will continue to advertise this on our social media. But we've been asked to be an artist vendor.
I know, that's really cool. What a compliment.
Yeah. Now you're like, what is this? Basically, this is going to be a venue of over 400 artists, podcasters, creators, authors. So many different amazing creative people that I can't even believe we've been asked to join. In the past, from what I've heard, this event has brought in 3,000 to 4,000 people.
Wow. Yeah, so that would be very nice.
Yeah, so we are so excited, and we would love to have you join us at this event. Again, it's on Saturday, October 3rd, 2026 from 4 to 9 at Bartle Hall. If you are interested, we have an easy web address you can go to learn more about it and potentially get tickets. That is www.boozybookfest.com. So BOOZYBOOKFEST. boozybookfest.com.
Very excited. And we feel so honored to get a spot this year.
I tried to get us in there last year. We were pretty new. Didn't happen. So yeah, we're really excited about this.
Now, if you get a chance, come meet us.
Come meet us. We're going to have
We'd
a
love
vendor.
to meet you.
Yeah, we'll meet you. There'll be options for case suggestions. There'll be free giveaways. All kinds of exciting things we're thinking about doing. So yeah, we wanted to make sure everybody knew about that. Now, before we get into,
and they are really fun. We went to like a miniature one.
Yes,
at that bookstore.
Yes,
was that in Park?
That was in Blue Springs.
And there were not that many tables. No. Maybe 20.
Yeah, but a lot of people came through.
Yeah, but it was fun. Like if you're not interested in this stuff, it's still very. Yes. It's fun.
There were authors there that do science fiction. There's authors there that do history about Missouri.
You can leave with a signed book, you know?
Yes. I mean, it's not just true crime. It can be, there's going to be like romance authors. Mm-hmm. It's going to be, for that little small version we did, it was so cool.
And remember when we sat by, at the last one, we sat by that one lady, she'd written a book, and then we found out that she gave us like a 1-star review after we sat by her during the whole fest, and we thought she like loved us,
and obviously
and then she did not.
But hey, you're not everybody's cup of tea. Sometimes.
No, you're not,
and that's okay.
That's fine.
So so we'll be mentioning that in the next month or two as we get to it. Right, it definitely won't be the last time you hear us talk about it, but yeah,
we're excited.
All right, now before we get into our case, I do want to remind listeners. This episode discusses some very serious violent crimes, including the death of an infant and family members. So this is tough. Our goal is to remember these victims. We want to share accurate information and acknowledge the lives that were lost.
Yeah.
Before we talk about the crime, before we discuss the investigation, the evidence, or the person who is eventually going to be held responsible for this tragedy, let's take some time to remember the people at the center of it. Because Russell and Shirley Denham, Heather Ager, and baby Mason Schiavone are not just names. They were a family. They were parents, grandparents, granddaughter, grandson, people who had birthdays, traditions, everyday routines that may have seemed ordinary at the time. But those ordinary moments are not often the ones families treasures the most. I mean, their lives cannot be defined by the way they died.
No.
Their lives were defined by the years before that night. So let's remember that.
Yes.
Russell Denham was 82 years old, and his wife, Shirley, was 81. Had basically lived a long, full life.
You make it that long, and then you die tragically.
I know.
To me, that is like, it's like someone living to be 90 and then getting in a car accident.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
Like,
but to be murdered is even more, I think you're like something preventable. Like they lived their whole life.
They were murdered.
Yes.
Yeah.
Russell and Shirley had spent decades together building a life, creating a family in Edgerton, grandparents, again, longtime members of the community. And they're just the kind of people that are just kind of woven into the fabric of the town, you know?
Yeah.
Many couples like them who spend their adult lives together, Russell and Shirley shared a history across generations. They'd experienced milestones, family gatherings, and by the time they'd reached their 80s, they'd entered a chapter of life where many grandparents are finding joy in just watching their family grow.
Yeah.
You know, they've grown their family, and this is an opportunity to see their granddaughter become a mom and welcome a grandson, you know. Shirley is remembered by those who knew her as a loving grandmother. She cared deeply about her family. And again, Russell and Shirley are not simply just some elderly couple living in Edgerton. They're parents, they're grandparents, neighbors, members of the community. And on February 19th, 2016, the home that they built so many wonderful memories in becomes extremely tainted, destroyed. It becomes the scene of this unimaginable tragedy. Let's quickly talk about Heather. Heather Ager, she's 32 years old at the time of this tragedy. She is Russell and Shirley's granddaughter, and she is actually the mom to 3-month-old Mason. And at the time of her death, Heather's in a season of her life that's very familiar to many new parents. One filled with sleepless nights, new experiences, and the overwhelming love that comes with caring for a newborn. Although details about her personal life are very limited, those who knew her said she loved her family and she loved being a mom. Um, Heather was not just a granddaughter caught in the middle of this horrific crime. Again, person with her own dreams, relationships, future. She was a daughter who still had parents, a mother who only had just begun raising her son, and a family member whose absence is going to change the lives of everyone who loved her. And then lastly is Mason, baby Mason. Mason Schiavone is only 3 months old when his life is taken. He was born in late 2015, and he represented everything a new baby brings to a family: hope, excitement, promise of an amazing future with first steps, first words, first birthday. At 3 months old, he was just learning about the world around him. He's at an age when babies begin noticing faces and voices and forming those bonds. But on February 19th, 2016, Mason's life ended before he ever had a chance to even experience this world beyond infancy. And his death was one of the most heartbreaking parts of an already devastating crime, not only because he's so small and little, but because of all the moments he would never get to experience in his life with his family. Also lost that night is the Denham family dog.
Man.
I know, the dog too. In many reports, pets are sometimes mentioned briefly, but for many families, including our own,
they killed the dog?
yes. Just like for many families, an animal is not just a pet. They're family, they're part of your home, they're your companion, and the loss represents not only the destruction of human life, but the loss of another member of a household that had been part of this Denham's family everyday world. I mean, someone just came in and blew up their whole
family
world.
The whole thing.
The whole thing. Now, when we look back at the Denham family, it's important to remember that the story did not begin with this crime scene. I mean, they were a normal, per se, family. Couple who'd been together forever, granddaughter raising her son, a baby who just started living. The tragedy of this night takes all those things away, but it doesn't erase the lives they lived before, and that's how people want to remember them. Now, shortly before midnight on February 19th, 2016, a neighbor is coming home from work when he notices something unusual in the horizon. As he's looking toward the Denham property, he sees what he described as a glow coming from behind the trees and hedgerow. At first, the neighbor's not sure what he's seeing, so he decides to walk closer. And it becomes very clear the Denham's home is on fire.
Okay.
So the neighbor drives to the property, pulls into the driveway, confirms the house is ablaze, and calls 911. He gets out of his car and starts yelling, "Russell, Shirley, Heather," hoping someone might, if they're inside, they could yell for help, like, "Where are they?"
Yeah.
As he's walking around the burning house, the scene starts to become increasingly more alarming. The house is engulfed in flames, the windows are shattering, debris is scattered all over the yard, and there appears to be these multiple small fires around the property.
Oh, those are the bodies.
Yes. At first, the neighbor believes that there may have been some type of explosion in the house. Few minutes later, other neighbors arrive, join the search, calling out the names, trying to see if anyone's in there. Has someone escaped? And what they discover is not what they expected. What initially appears to be burning debris from this house fire is actually the remains of the members of the Denham family.
Yeah.
The neighbors quickly realize we are not responding to an accidental house fire. This is not what we thought it was. We are standing in the middle of a crime scene. And this is what makes the beginning of this case so heartbreaking, is that the first instinct of these neighbors is not suspicion.
Right.
It's concern.
Right.
How did their house catch on fire? When firefighters arrive at approximately 11:52 p.m., they find the home. I mean, it's already fully engulfed in flames. And what begins as a response to a possible house fire now becomes a homicide investigation. So authorities arrive at the burning home, and very quickly there is one person noticeably absent: Russell and Shirley's grandson.
Who lived with them?
Yes, Heather's brother and Mason's uncle. His name, Grayden Denham.
Okay.
At the time, Grayden is in his early 20s, and he is not found among the rubble, the fire, or with the other victims, and investigators quickly realize something else is gone. Grandma Shirley's car.
Uh-oh.
That discovery will transform this investigation from a local tragedy into a national search.
For Grayden in Grandma's car.
Correct. Now, understanding a case like this requires looking at the people involved, of course, before the crime occurs, because we, again, want to try and understand. Public information about Grayden's life before February 2016 is very limited, and what we know comes from court proceedings, testimony, and information released during the investigation. From what we know, based on those reports, Grayden had been part of the Denham family and had a very close relationship with the people inside the home. So if Grayden did this, this is not a crime committed by a stranger. This is a crime that devastates a family from within. Before the murders, Grayden does not have any public history of violent criminal convictions. There's no record that suggests he is going to become the one responsible for this. There's nothing that would have anticipated this. That contrast, I mean, the difference between what people believe they knew about someone and what investigators later uncover is part of what makes this case hard to understand. When someone you never think would do that, you know? I mean,
Well, Megan, excuse me. I think that's one of the hardest parts of cases like this is that when you hear about a crime this horrific, people naturally want to know, was there a warning sign? Did someone see something coming? But sometimes, especially in family crimes, the answers are not that simple.
right, exactly. I mean, like, why would someone do this? You just want to know why. And again, could it have been prevented? And in this case, investigators would spend years trying to understand not only what happened inside that home, but why. And the crime itself, of course, raises questions like, what's the motive? Is mental health involved? And responsibility of who did it. But before any of those questions can be answered, investigators first have to answer,
Where is he?
where the hell is Grayden Denham? And was he responsible for what happened to this family?
I'm feeling.
Like he might be.
Yeah.
On the evening of Friday, February 19th, 2016, the Denham family home in Edgerton likely looked like any other home in the community. Again, typical Midwestern Missouri house. Shirley and Russell had been there together with their granddaughter Heather, raising her 3-month-old son. Again, nothing strange. No one saw anything coming in the weeks before.
They'd lived there for 8 decades.
Yes, they'd lived in this town. They were 80s for 8 decades. Sometime this night in February 2016, something happens inside the Denham home that obviously is going to forever change the Denham family and the entire community of Edgerton. And this quiet neighborhood is suddenly filled with police lights, emergency sirens, and this home consumed by fires. Now, again, once firefighters are inside and they're around this home, they locate very quickly the bodies of Russell, Shirley, Heather, and Mason.
Very quickly.
And not only, obviously, have they been burned, but all 4 victims had been shot.
Okay.
Investigators determined that each had suffered a gunshot wound to the head, making it clear that this is definitely not an accident or the result of the fire. This is a quadruple homicide scene. Very, very hard to imagine coming up on that.
It's hard to imagine what those first responders walked into.
Yes.
Because they arrived thinking that they were helping with the fire, and instead they discovered an entire family had been murdered.
Yes, including a 3-month-old baby.
Oh.
And that was what made this case so devastating, because this isn't a crime with strangers or random acts. This is a family, 4 people from the same home gone, including an infant.
Except for the one guy.
Except for Grayden.
Yeah.
Now, this is also strange, okay? As investigators process the scene, they discover a detail that immediately draws their attention. 2 pennies, coins, 2 pennies had been placed on or near the eyes of the 4 victims. Yeah, weird.
Okay, and when they found the pennies and the victims, they'd been burned.
Right.
But the pennies were still on their eyes?
Right. Or laying next to them.
Okay.
So the discovery, of course, became one of the most talked about aspects of this case because it's weird and very out of the ordinary. Well,
Mm-hmm.
this whole penny on the eyes things kind of took fire, and people were wanting to know, like, is there a deeper meaning or symbolism?
Yeah.
Well, one theory discussed during the investigation and later in court involves a movie called The Boondock Saints. Not Boondock, the shirt you have with the cartoon. That's different.
Okay.
That's different. This is a movie called The Boondock Saints, which I don't know. Prosecutors presented evidence that the film included a scene where pennies were placed over the eyes of deceased victims. And they argued that the placement of the pennies at the home may have been inspired by that scene.
Okay.
Now, I don't know. Another theory, and again, these are theories, people discussed was whether the coins had some kind of symbolic meaning. Well, throughout history, coins have been associated with death rituals in some cultures, including the ancient belief of placing coins with the deceased as a payment for passage into the afterlife.
I brought my pennies.
Now, if you watched Game of Thrones, this is a very common thing they do on Game of Thrones.
It's put pennies on their
Correct.
eyes?
Or their old Valyrian coins or whatever they have.
Why? Why do they do it?
Again, some symbolic religious ritual. But again,
so they don't go to the grave broke.
Right. Or this payment for passage.
Yeah.
So, but investigators never have confirmed why.
Yeah.
And I don't think they've ever been told.
No.
Ultimately, the only confirmed fact is that the pennies were there, but the exact reason, again, no one knows why. Now, as stated earlier, when emergency workers arrive, I mean, they really quickly realize Grayden is missing. Russell and Shirley's grandson, nephew of Heather, uncle to Mason. Where is he?
Car gone.
Car gone. Investigators have to consider everything. Is Grayden a victim? Had he got away? You know, maybe he escaped. Someone
Then
came.
why didn't he come to the police?
Good question. Was he someone who might have more information about what happened? Then again, they discover Shirley's car is missing. So that makes, again, they're like, okay, if he had access to the car, why didn't he come to the police station?
Right.
Why didn't he call us? They knew Grayden is not just absent. He appears to have left the area using grandma's car.
Yeah.
Now, again, at the time of the murders, Grayden is 24. Court records show that Grayden had been living with his grandparents, Russell and Shirley, in their Edgerton home, and had been living with Heather and Mason as well in the weeks leading up to this. And as investigators look back at the weeks leading up to the murders, they start to examine Grayden's behavior and relationships amongst the family members. During the trial, witnesses testified that they had noticed some big changes in Grayden's behavior before the killings and fire. One neighbor told investigators that about 2 weeks before the murders, Grayden made a very disturbing comment while discussing his grandparents. According to court testimony, when asked why he was not inside watching the Super Bowl with Russell, Grayden responds to the neighbor that his grandparents didn't have much longer to live.
What?
Now, is your neighbor, if you're a neighbor and your neighbor boy tells
My
you,
grandparents don't have much longer to live.
my comment would have been, oh my gosh, are they sick? That would have been my comment. Like, oh, are they ill?
And that's why they're not watching the Super
Super
Bowl?
Bowl?
Yeah.
I don't know. Another witness testifies that there had been concerns about changes in Grayden's behavior and tension within the household. It is important to remember, though, that these details all became known after the murders and were examined through the lens of an investigation. And we know, looking back after a tragedy, we think about conversations, behaviors of others. But again, we don't know the full picture.
No.
So during the trial, prosecutors also presented evidence suggesting Grayden had been struggling with substance abuse and personal issues before the murders. Prosecutors argued that methamphetamine use and conflicts within the household played a role in the events leading up to the February 19th killings. The defense, however, wanted to focus heavily on Grayden's mental state, arguing that he had experienced serious mental health issues and that those issues affected his ability to form the intent required for certain charges. So basically saying,
yes, you're so messed up
we
that
can't charge
you can get out of this.
One of the most difficult parts of this case is that Grayden was not someone the community knew as a career career criminal.
Yeah.
Or somebody that was a bad kid who'd done bad things. Again, no previous record.
Nothing.
Nothing. Instead,
And then to do
something that heinous is that as your first offense is shocking. Instead, investigators are trying to understand how someone can go from being a part of this family to literally burning this whole family down, them and the house. As investigators start gathering evidence and interviewing people connected to the family, the search for Grayden expands beyond Edgerton. He's gone in Grandma's car. Where the fuck is he?
He's got wheels.
Yeah, they can't find him. So law enforcement agencies alert multiple states around the area, and actually they end up doing a nationwide search. They're like, Bolo, be on the lookout.
Mm-hmm.
So the case goes quickly from Edgerton, small town Missouri, to a multi-state investigation. They want to know what happened inside the home. Why would someone target this whole family? And where is Grayden?
And I think what makes this case so difficult for communities is the uncertainty.
Yes.
Everyone wants answers immediately, but investigators have to slowly piece it together. What happened from evidence, witness statements, and the timeline.
Exactly. I mean, I know living in a small town, a few things that happened there that were alarming.
Yeah.
You are, as a community member, you're worried about, obviously you're sad about what's happened to your community member. You're worried for your family. Is someone out there?
And you are worried that someone's going to mimic their crime and do it to another person.
Right. Especially when there's no real reason.
Like the cluster.
Right. The suicide
cluster. Like murder clusters could happen too,
Yes. Yeah. And in this case, investigators would soon get their first major break. But it comes hundreds of miles away from Missouri. 2 days after the murders, Grayden Denham is located in the Arizona desert. And the circumstances surrounding his discovery is going to raise even more questions about what happened in Edgerton. So for investigators searching for answers...
He went to the desert.
Huh?
He went to the desert.
And investigators, they're looking for answers. And again, within the first 48 hours, I mean, that's crucial. I mean, there's a whole show called The First 48.
Yes, there is.
The first 48, it's very important to figure out or try to figure out what happened. And again, Grayden's disappeared. Where has he gone? Well, he's gone to Arizona. 2 days after the murders, on February 21st, 2016, Grayden Denham is found wandering in the Arizona desert. The circumstances surrounding this discovery, according to reports, Grayden was found naked and alone in a remote area of Arizona. He was dehydrated, disoriented, and appeared to have been exposed to the harsh desert conditions. Authorities who
What the heck?
Yeah. Very quickly, authorities who locate him realize this is not like a missing person. They confirm who he is, and they learn very quickly he is wanted in connection with the deaths of his family in Missouri. Okay, so we found the missing grandson, Grayden. But why are you running? Why are you trying to hide? What the hell are you doing out here in the Arizona desert?
What are you doing?
Is something else happening? And at that moment, again, authorities don't have a full picture of what actually happened. I mean, they have a crime scene. They know the vehicle was missing, but they still have to build this case. And they take Grayden into custody. He's eventually returned to Missouri, and he is faced with multiple charges related to the deaths of his family, including 4 counts of first-degree murder, 4 counts of armed criminal action, second-degree arson, animal abuse. Thank you. And stealing a motor vehicle. The charges reflect what prosecutors thought happened, that Grayden had killed his family, set fire to the home in an attempt to destroy evidence, and fled in Grandma's car. However, before the case could actually move on to trial, this legal process is going to face years of delays. How frustrating.
Yeah.
One of the most major issues that defines this case is the question of Grayden's mental state. As you can tell, he's found naked in the Arizona desert.
Not good.
After his arrest, the court orders mental health evaluations to see whether or not he's competent to stand trial. And in criminal cases, competency is not about whether someone has a mental illness. or whether they experience mental health struggles. The question is more specific. Does the defendant, Grayden, understand the charges being brought against him? Does he understand how the legal process works? And does Grayden have the ability to assist his attorney in their own defense? Because of those questions and evaluations, the case moved very slowly.
Yeah.
Years passed. The family of the victims are waiting. Edgerton's waiting to hear. And a case that had begun with a shocking crime in 2016 would not reach trial until almost 6 years later.
6 years. 6 years is such a long time anyway, but for families who are grieving,
Oh,
the initial shock fades, but the loss, I'm sure, never goes away. And then there is this additional waiting period where they are waiting for the justice system to move forward. And it feels like you're not important.
Yes, no one cares about what happened to your family. Really, for 6 years, no one's being held accountable when you know who did it.
The justice system and the medical fields, like
Insurance.
making you wait for 2 months to find out results of tests and things like that. Like,
Yes.
that's equally as awful as
That I think that just causes additional trauma on top of this
oh yeah.
awful trauma. Okay, again, for the loved ones left behind, they're forced to keep living this for 6 years and obviously forever. Now, while the legal process continues, investigators continued examining the evidence that they connected to Grayden to the crime scene. The prosecution's case centered around, here are some key pieces of evidence, including, the discovery of the victims at the burned home, the missing vehicle belonging to Shirley, that Grayden disappeared right after the killings. He was found in Arizona, and then physical and forensic evidence that they collected. And they were trying to reconstruct the timeline, basically from the night of the murders, what happened, and then when Grayden was captured.
Yeah.
And their theory was that after, of course, killing them, he went to Arizona. I mean, he did this.
Yeah.
Now, for family members left behind, again, grief, questions, waiting, and here we are 6 years down the road. After Grayden was returned to Missouri and charged, again, many health evaluations. Now, the legal question, again, is whether he can work with the attorney. And the court has to balance two things. We want justice for this victim and their loved ones, and the constitutional requirement that a defendant be mentally capable of participating in their own trial.
Yeah.
And finally, the trial starts December 2021, 6 years. Grayden stands trial.
Wow.
And the case is tried in Platte County, Missouri. And it's a jury trial. Prosecutors present their argument that Grayden was responsible for the fatal deaths of his 2 grandparents, his aunt, his infant nephew, and the family dog. They focus on the evidence collected and the timeline, and they argue that Grayden had killed his family inside the home, started the fire in an attempt to cover it up, stole the car, and left. The question is still why?
Why?
So during the trial, jurors heard about the events. They heard everything from the beginning to the end. And basically, the prosecution says, it's right here. It's crystal clear who did this. I mean, all the evidence is here. Do we know why he did this? No. But did he do it? Yes. It's pretty obvious. After hearing the evidence and testimony, the jury agrees. They say, you're right. He is found guilty on 4 counts of first-degree murder, 4 counts of armed criminal action, second-degree arson, animal abuse, and stealing a vehicle. And for the first time in over 6 years, they finally have an answer.
Yeah.
A guilty verdict. In February 2022, 6 years later, Grayden is sentenced for his crimes. The judge sentenced him to 4 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole.
Good.
He also received an additional 115 years for the arson, animal abuse, and stealing the vehicle.
Good.
So, good.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, this remains one of the most heartbreaking crimes, not only for Edgerton, but for Missouri.
Mhm.
Again, we had a whole family taken out in one instance by a fellow family
And why?
member. And again, never told why. And the Edgerton family murders, of course, it affected neighbors. It affected, everyone, friends. It affected everyone. And in this small community, it is considered one of the darkest moments that they've had. Again, when you're talking about a community of 600 people.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Now, one thing we don't talk a lot about is the effect these things probably have on first responders.
Right.
When firefighters and law enforcement officers, arrive initially to the Denham home, they think they're putting out a house fire. Instead, they walk into a mass crime scene where people have been brutally murdered, including an infant.
Well, we have a cousin who, I won't say her name, who recently just got her EMT
Yes.
license or
Paramedic.
whatever, and I think about her all the time
Yes.
when I pass an ambulance or anything, what she sees. And
Yeah, the trauma that those first responders, firemen, police officers, investigators, nurses, EMT,
yeah,
they have to take that trauma with them every day, and how
Yeah.
they compartmentalize that is hard for me to understand.
me too. It takes very special people to do their jobs.
Yes. Now, again, the lasting question is, what was the motive here? People want to know. They want to understand what happened inside someone's mind that would a 24-year-old man, what could be so awful that you would commit this horrific crime?
I mean, shoot a baby in the head.
Yes. Sometimes, even after years of investigation and courtroom verdicts, we just don't have answers. What investigators establish is that he was responsible, but it can't tell us why. Again, the only thing that is brought to light is that maybe he was struggling with mental health issues and he was on meth.
When it happened.
Yes. And that drugs were highly involved.
He snapped.
He snapped. Yeah. But, again, our goal is to remember the victims.
Yes.
And to share these cases respectfully and factually and keeping the victims' names alive.
Yes.
Because as we say, behind every headline, it's a person. Behind every case is a family. And behind every tragedy are lives that mattered and lives that are still affected today.
Yes.
So thankfully, justice was served for this family. But as we know, justice is never really served in a situation like this. Would you want to wrap this up with a quick prayer for the Stanley community?
Yes, I would. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we just want to first of all thank you that the person that was responsible for this is behind bars, and that has got to be a relief for the family. We want to keep the names Russell, Shirley, Heather, and Mason alive, and their memory and what happened to them is important. And Lord, I just ask that you be with all of their loved ones and family to this day as they still work through this. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
The Edgerton family remains one of Missouri's and Edgerton's most heartbreaking crimes. In February of 2016, Russell, Shirley, Heather, and Mason lost their lives in an act of violence that forever changed their family and their community. Today, we remember them not because of this tragedy, but because of the people they were and the people who mattered. They were loved, they were family, and they should never be forgotten. Thank you guys for joining us for this episode of Missouri Mayhem, Mystery, and Murder. I'm Megan.
And I'm Mindy.
Don't forget, stay safe, stay kind, and stay curious. Missouri, you bring the mystery.
And we'll bring the mayhem.
Peace out.
Peace out.